We are recording. So my first question, I guess, I want to start, obviously, as many know, you were diagnosed with COVID-19 last week, and you've exhibited some of COVID-19. So let me start by asking, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm doing a lot better than my wife. My wife has it as well, but she also got with pneumonia with it. So she's fighting a pretty tough battle with it. I lost my sense of smell and taste. That's starting to come back. Got a little bit of what felt like allergies, but all that's cleared up now. Checked with the health department. I've been on quarantine since that time. They're looking about releasing me off of quarantine at 12:01 Sunday morning. So that'll be the official time as of right now that they're talking about. I've got one daughter, Casey. She's got it. But all of our staff has been quarantined and tested, and all came back negative. So,
okay, that's good news. And other than that, as I'm sure you're aware of, I do want to kind of transition still on the topic of COVID-19, but more on how COVID-19 relates to our region. Region 5's positivity rate of Governor Pritzker's Restore Illinois plan, which includes most of your district, is
right.
It has risen a bit from, I think it was 5-point-something% last week, and it actually hit 8%, the 8% threshold at one point this week, and which means if it does go back over 8%, additional restrictions could be imposed
right.
At the governor's directive. If that is the case, and if cases by some chance do continue to increase, are you concerned that more restrictions could hurt our local economy?
Well, yeah, I am worried about that. That's why it is that we passed the COVID bills that we've passed already, and that's why I'm working hard to try to make sure that we get the fourth COVID bill passed. We've put 175 billion into our hospitals. We put 26.2 billion into testing. We put 659 billion in PPP. We're trying desperately to get, those were the first three bills that we got done. That being said, the fourth bill we are talking about, we actually have, I'm with a group called the Problem Solvers, and you can't be a Republican on the Problem Solver unless you're joining with a Democrat. There's 50 of us that are 25 Republicans, 25 Democrats. We've been working on the proposal, and we have a proposal that the administration agrees with, that the Republicans and the Democrats on committee agree with, that the Senate agrees with, that the House Republican agrees with, but the only people that don't agree is Nancy Pelosi. And that's because she keeps pushing for some things that are just not COVID related, that are very expensive to our children and grandchildren. We need to get back to work. We need to go in and pass the bill that we've been working on to try to cure those problems. So as these things flare up, we will be able to maintain and help make sure our businesses are still able to live through this next round. And then the other advantage to that is, I believe that by the time the election, just after the election, or I wish before, understand, but the first COVID bill, what we did with it was, that was what made all the investments in the medical research, the 5 companies that are doing the studies to get the vaccines out there. 4 of those 5 studies already are in their final phase. And what we did was we made sure that the investment was made. So not that we have to wait until it's approved, but we've actually got the vaccine ready to roll. So as soon as it is approved, it can get out to the people and actually start doing the work that we need to do there. And the kind of long answer to a short question, but that's the way we've got to handle.
Yeah, absolutely. And just kind of staying on the subject of COVID-19 for a minute, I know obviously that has been the big deal for the past several months since it came about. Now we're kind of transitioning. To me, it seemed like it took a while to transition into full election season, and now it's just right on us. So let's go ahead and transition to the election for a moment.
Okay.
Your opponent, Ray Lindsay, has attacked you for not caring about the Postal Service and a large number of other issues, and you responded Tuesday by referring to his events as publicity stunts. Are you concerned about the integrity of this election, and how do you think the outcome of this landmark election could affect us locally?
Well, let me say this, that my opponent, first off, He's attacked me on certain issues. His credibility was shot when he tried to attack me early on an issue on my voting record, when the only time I've ever missed any votes was during my mother's funeral. And I kind of took that personal, because he didn't do enough research to get that figured out. He also didn't understand that the Postal Department, I'm not only endorsed by the Postal Services, the letter carriers, and all the other unions affiliated and leadership affiliated with the Postal Service, because the Postal Service is vitally important. And I was one of the ones out there running and pushing to make sure they were not shut down. First off, they can't be shut down. They are one of the only, the only agency that is created in the Constitution. So it has to be there. We have to make sure our postal services work and work correctly. You know, and I take a lot of pride in being accessible to my constituents and working hard. And we have teletown hall meetings, video conferences like this, and through other media interviews, and we do all the meetings, and I've taken great pride in that. But I kind of am frustrated with the way that his campaign has ran. You know, I really believe that the decision for us not to go into the debates with him was a wise decision. You know, he's running around the district with a guy in a chicken suit. That shows how uncredible his candidacy is. He's got no money, he's got no message, he's got no momentum, but he's got a chicken suit. So, you know, I've never actually had an opponent act like this. And that's why it's not a credible opponent. We're making our investment. We're getting our message out to our constituents. And as we were talking earlier, this is a unique year because with COVID and the things that had to be focused on, my job, I had to focus on the job. And that's what I've been doing. And I believe my constituents know and understand that.
Yeah. And, you know, some people have kind of mentioned, you are a person who, you know, likes to connect directly with the people of your district. And obviously there are certain circumstances like right now where you can't do that. You can't go in person media interviews. You can't go shake people's hands, things like that.
Right.
So how has COVID-19, this election in particular, your campaign, how has it affected your campaign in comparison to say campaign?
What we have to do this time different, where normally I do 64 parades a year. We had one parade on Flag Day, but that wasn't a real parade because everybody stayed in their vehicles and put their flags in the back of their pickup trucks and drove around Union County. So we don't have a lot of parades. A lot of our get-togethers, whether partisan get-togethers or nonpartisan get-togethers, are truly social distanced. A lot of our fundraising activities, we had a lot of people that were scheduled to come into the district that are, when you run for Congress, bring in different people. For instance, and this is just one example. We had Dan Crenshaw, who's a well-known member of Congress. He was supposed to come in because of the blockage of COVID. He couldn't come in, but we ended up doing those virtual. We still raised money. We still do the things we have to do there, but we had to do it this way. We did have Leader McCarthy come in this last week. Even though I was on COVID, he met with people in Mount Vernon the other night, but he did that under the rules that they could in the restaurant and didn't have a large crowd. He had about 2 tables of 6 that were spaced out to where they had to be. Same thing whenever we're doing any of our meetings or anything like that, we just have to follow the rules and guidelines set forth by the medical advice and doing exactly what the CDC says.
Yeah, and the last part of the question I asked before that, regarding the integrity of the election, that's been a major concern, particularly among Republicans as this election comes up.
Right.
Are you personally concerned about the integrity of the election? People have already.
I'm always concerned about the integrity of elections because I'm from Illinois. We've had problems with voter fraud in the state of Illinois for years, whether it's in the Chicago area, quite often the East St. Louis area. So we have to have those guidelines in place. Now, let me explain that is a state issue. You wish that it was a federal issue, but the reality is because of the 10th Amendment, it's up to the states to make sure they implement the proper rules. When you hear the people say, well, we need to have every state to do mail-in ballots. Well, the federal government doesn't force every state to do the mail-in ballots. They can't. The 10th Amendment allows them their own decisions to be made. My hope is that the integrity of the system will be monitored very closely. We know that we will have monitors in each courthouse doing the watching. We have our poll watchers. It's not something that we don't already do anyway. And many of the campaigns are making those investments to have attorneys present at all of the counting of the ballots.
And, you know, to my recollection locally, you talk about voter fraud issues with the election. There's really never been any huge issues with election integrity in our area, from what I can, you know, kind of.
No, not in Southern Illinois, more in East St. Louis. We had some real issues back in 2012. 2012, they had several precincts that voted in excess of 110%. I don't know how math is. Well, we know how math is here in Southern Illinois, but I don't know how it is in East St. Louis. But you can't vote if you can't vote 110 and 120% of the registered voters. And then what ended up happening is the State Board of Elections came in, and they actually went through a process of sending out letters requesting somebody if they were registered to vote. If they didn't get the letter back, then they checked it. They had some places where there were vacant lots that had as many as 46 people to 50 people registered to vote on the vacant lot, and they were voting. They actually would go into the ballot box. So they end up having to clean that up. It was a real problem, and it actually probably cost Jason Plummer the ability to be elected to U.S. Congress that year. So, and that's not the first time we've had voter fraud in the state of Illinois.
Yeah, that's something, you know, when it comes to election integrity that a lot of people don't realize. You also serve East St. Louis, and that's kind of a metropolitan area. So, you know, you serve St. Clair County in particular, and that's,
right.
that's the most popular.
Well, it is something that, you know, it's up to each individual election authority. And understand, St. Clair County has 2 election authorities. They're one of the few that do. They have St. Clair County and they have East St. Louis. And so we have to make sure that we put attorneys in there on a regular basis.
Okay, and the last thing I do that I already have pre-printed out here, we can talk about more if you want, but the announcement you made, it was either yesterday or the day before that, regarding the broadband internet expansion in our area. Yeah. That got a lot of people, obviously, and especially in our rural communities interested in that. So if you could, will you kind of explain to our viewers what exactly those grants are, what they need?
Sure. Let me explain that when what we've got is we've got the Hamilton County co-op, and then the Flat Rock co-op. The grant was, I think it was 46. I'll have to get that number with you. I don't have it in front of me, but the grant for reconnecting is vitally important. Here it is: 20 million to reconnect grant, 20 million reconnect loan, and it'll provide high-speed broadband internet for Southern Illinois counties, including Williamson and Franklin. It'll connect 20,000 people to nearly 500 small businesses. The rural communities need it greater than anything else, because what we have is we have students quite often that they are trying to learn through the media systems that we have, but if they're not connected, that's very, very difficult. Quite often they have to travel to some place in town to get it. I actually have, in this situation, my granddaughter, before we had COVID, she's a junior in high school. She comes to our house to get the connection. But this major investment by the USDA is vitally important to Southern Illinois and the region to get high-speed internet to more people, especially at a time. And the reason why it's also good with the USDA is in agriculture, as we're moving forward with highly technical equipment as far as planning and harvesting and the technology that's needed to do that. This will allow the farmer to go into the operations at the level that they need to, not counting many of the small businesses that have not been connected.
Yeah, and I did kind of want to mention, but before we wrap it up here, there's lots of projects around the region. I've just in Franklin and Williamson County in particular, have the brand new courthouse going up in Franklin County. Big developments coming to the mall very soon. We have some indications on what that may be, but we're not allowed to release that yet. But And Walker's Bluff Casino, something big, developments in Marion, I-57 expansion, the list goes on. So, you know, this has to kind of, assuming you're reelected, bring some hope to you, you know, that project
if we get
our economy.
If we get through this COVID and we get that's the number one thing we have to do is make sure that people can go out, be safe, be healthy, and then the economy should come back and boom well. And I believe that it is our plan. No, I know it's our plan. Regardless of which president is, we're going to be pushing for a large infrastructure bill like was trying to be talked about before the politics got involved. That will be an amazing help for the economy, not only in Southern Illinois, but around this nation. And with it, as will be, you know, the Buy America will be part of that. We'll bring a lot of our products. One thing COVID has proved out is we have to bring a lot of our products back home. We learned that with steel before, which I knew from working before the COVID outbreak. But once the COVID outbreak occurred, we realized that things like PPE, chemicals that are involved in making drugs, and many of the drugs themselves have been trapped in a foreign country that isn't not necessarily always friendly with us, and that's China. So we've got to start bringing those type jobs back home. We'll expand our infrastructure, and we'll get the economy booming. And we are truly working to make sure that not only is the Trump plan of making America great again, is to make it again back after COVID and continue to grow the way it was before COVID.
Alrighty. Well, other than that, is there anything else you might want to mention? I mean, that I pretty much think those are the four major issues that we kind of covered right now.
Yeah, I think we got it. And if you have any other questions at any time, just let me know, and we're available.
Yeah, and just, you know, transitioning back to the first question I posed to you, you know, you told us that you're doing okay. I believe you said your granddaughter or daughter. Yeah, your granddaughter has it. But your wife.
My daughter's a nurse, and she has it.
Oh, okay. So, and your wife, you said is.
And my wife has it pretty bad. Yeah.
Okay. Well, yeah, she's in our thoughts. You are obviously as well. But you look good.
We feel good.
That's good. And we thank you for joining us this afternoon. And we'll go ahead and send this out. So thank you very much,
Bost. Thank you so much. Sure appreciate talking to you. Thank you.